I'm sitting here at the desk, but you can't even see the desk because it's covered in news. That's how we're going to start 2018. But first, Donald Trump calls for jail for Hillary Clinton's aide, Huma Abedin. Here's John Bound with that report.
Judicial Watch has done it again. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton made the following statement regarding the release by the U.S. Department of State of Huma Abedin's work-related documents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation that were found on her estranged husband Anthony Weiner's personal laptop.
Now, Huma Abedin, for those of you who don't know, was a top aide to Hillary Clinton at the State Department, close to Hillary Clinton during the campaign, had worked with her for years and years, so one of her closest friends. And she happened to be the only other State Department employee who had an email account on Hillary Clinton's secret server. So there are a lot of emails from Huma Abedin's account that Judicial Watch has been getting over the last 2 years that have demonstrated that, first of all, she shouldn't have had that secret email account. Secondly, you had pay-to-play going on through that account, through the Clinton Foundation, because Huma Abedin was the go-between. You also had classified information on this account. You also had emails to and from Hillary Clinton that Hillary Clinton hadn't turned over on Abedin's account. Now remember, Hillary Clinton swore under oath she turned all those emails over. Well, these Abedin emails show that wasn't the case. So there's a new cache of Abedin emails that were found by the FBI, you maybe remember, last year on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Abedin had been married, I don't know if they're still married, but she had been married to Anthony Weiner, and I guess in the investigation of Weiner's other misconduct, they found these emails that were relevant to the State Department and government activities. This is why then FBI Director Comey in October made this announcement saying, hey, look, we may found other emails relevant to the Hillary email investigation, stand by. The Hillary campaign went ballistic, and then, of course, Comey did what he did as a political animal and withdrew any concerns he had and just let them get away with whatever they got away with in terms of having government documents where they shouldn't have been.
The documents were produced in a May 5th, 2015 lawsuit Judicial Watch filed against the State Department. Judicial Watch sued after the State Department failed to respond to a March 18th, 2015 Freedom of Information Act request seeking all emails of official State Department business received or sent by former Deputy Chief of Staff Huma Abedin from January 1st, 2009 through February 1st, 2013, using a non-state gov email address. Judicial Watch previously released 20 productions of documents in this case that show examples of mishandling of classified information and instances of pay-to-play between the Clinton State Department and the Clinton Foundation. Also, at least 627 emails were not part of the 55,000 pages of emails that Clinton turned over, and further contradict a statement by Clinton that, as far as she knew, all of her government emails had been turned over to the department. 53-year-old Weiner started his 21 to 27-month stint in a federal medical prison outside of Boston back in November. You may recall this congressman sent pornographic material to a 15-year-old high school student in North Carolina, and within the 2,800 emails Judicial Watch uncovered on his laptop are classified materials? Americans should be outraged. The entire narrative touted by the mainstream media that Hillary didn't jeopardize national security has disintegrated. John Bound reporting for INFOWARS.com.
You heard it here. Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, caught with the emails. Hillary lied about it. The cat's out of the bag. You can't cover it all up. But you know what? We're asking the real questions here. Who can lift more in the weight room, Tom Fitton or Alex Jones? We want to know here at the War Room. We want to know who can deadlift more weight, Alex Jones or Tom Fitton. That man is a meat sauce. It's Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018. This is the War Room. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer. And I've got stacks and stacks of news. I'm going to try to get through all of it today. Paul Joseph Watson is our guest here in the first segment. Roger Stone joins us in the second hour as usual. But first, Paul, I thought California was crazy. I was reading about stories coming out of California. I didn't think there was a place on earth that was more crazy and backwards than California, but I'm finally realizing it now. Europe was, people here are saying Europe was California before California. Just, I mean, what in the heck is going on over there? The Metro publishes a story, you should buy your teenage kids sex toys? I mean, is there any hope left for Europe?
Well, it's funny because we've got teachers in schools in the UK teaching basically toddlers. They're not even in school yet. They're maybe just 4 years old, about transgenderism. And you had that story out of California not long ago where they were doing the same thing in California, the exact same thing. Teachers sitting with a book, all the little kids are sat around, basically toddlers, teaching them about transgenderism. The kids got frightened. You know, in the case of the girls, they got frightened because they thought they would turn into boys. They ran home and told their parents, what are you doing indoctrinating kids with any kind of sexuality until they at least hit what, 11, 12, 13, and then even with parents' permission. You're talking about in California, 2- and 3-year-old kindergarten kids being read, stories about transgenderism. They can't even compute any kind of sexuality whatsoever. They're toddlers, for God's sakes. This is child abuse. I mean, who would think that that was normal and healthy to subject little toddlers to any kind of sexual thing whatsoever? It's demented, and it's on the same level as the media now giving platforms to pedophiles, which really blew up in their face, but they're still doing it in a way. Owen, you had a video on YouTube not long ago. It was Vice Media. Little girls, 6-year-old girls, sat around showing them how to use dildos. This was while actual pedophiles were on Twitter trying to abuse children, by getting in the comments and trying to make children do sexual stuff. Absolute degenerate filth. But that's what the left's all about now, because they're moving toward, people have warned about this for decades, they're moving towards trying to characterize pedophilia as an alternate sexual lifestyle on a similar level as homosexuality. Which, by the way, a lot of homosexuals would really rail against because, of course, it's consensual. That isn't. It's completely degenerate.
And they're going like full on with this now. They're not stopping, even though it blows up in their face. They're just trying to just completely bull right through. And then even this story, I mean, it was published Saturday, December 30th, and it was up all the way till today at about 1 o'clock here Central Time U.S. when they finally pulled it down, why you should buy your teenage kids sex toys, because, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But when you talk about having these kids being read to by transsexuals at the libraries in California and Chicago and St. Louis, the list goes on and on. They're doing this everywhere now. They're not just having transsexuals come out. I mean, if you look specifically at the one in California, I mean, it'd be one thing if, okay, you want to have a transsexual reading hour and you think that this is good for kids or some way, shape, or form. That's your twisted logic. Okay, fine. But they have them dressed as demons. They're not just a transsexual that's out there because they want to be a cross-dresser or they're a boy that thinks they're a girl or whatever it is. They dress up in demon outfits with horns and a full-on demon array of makeup. I mean, it's just like, let's be as crazy as possible here.
Yeah, and they do that with the thought, oh, I'm subverting the system by being this crazy and this out there. No, you're not. You're serving the system. I mean, the old nuclear family thing was decades old. That's no longer the establishment view that the actual establishment and the dominant cultural institutions of the far left are pushing. They're pushing the most out there, crazy, degenerate crap they can imagine. So somebody who goes along and does that, you're only serving the system. You're part of the dominant cultural force that's imposing this weirdness, this bizarreness on people. And it's strange because they're aligning with how Islamic societies look upon children in some of their subcultures. Because we had Bacha Bazi, the scandal in Afghanistan, where the old men would have sex with young boys. U.S. military whistleblowers tried to go public with it, and they were told to shut up about it. You've got Turkey instituting laws, or at least saying that this is part of their religious doctrine, that girls aged 9 can now become pregnant, so you can have sex with 9-year-old girls. So it's this merger between this far-left demented idiocy and actual Islamic modesty culture which sexualizes young children. It's completely bizarre, this convergence that we're seeing. But it makes sense because they both got the same agenda of fundamentally upturning Western civilization. Both the far left and the Islamists have the same agenda, so they're going to broadly follow the same goals.
And you wrote about it today. Your story is on INFOWARS.com. Turkish state institution says girls can marry and get pregnant aged 9. And as you accurately point out, that's really just following the teachings of Muhammad. But Paul, I want to get to this other story before we get you off air here. This was on Breitbart London today. London's Met Police won't investigate minor crime, only hate crime. So apparently, if the investigation into a minor crime, is too much effort or too much of a burden on them, they just say they're just not going to investigate. However, a hate crime, misgendering somebody, or perhaps, maybe supporting Trump on Twitter or something like that, that can still be investigated, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's because the media created this. They whipped up this paranoia that hate crime was exploding after Brexit. It's complete nonsense. You actually looked at the figures. It was reporting of hate crime. They weren't even investigated. So it was this outrage culture that the media had generated. When, in reality, we've got knife crime, we've got acid attacks, we've got terror on a regular basis. Actual violent crime.
Yeah, just last week there were two acid attacks within like half a mile of each other.
But 5 people stabbed on New Year's Eve, the night of New Year's Eve alone. But Sadiq Khan has got the transgender toilets rolling. That's what's really important.
Oh, thank God.
Major agendas. So they've got the tranny toilets in tow. Actual people are being stabbed and acid thrown on their face. That's on the back burner. Oh, and by the way, if you make a mean comment on Facebook about Muslims, they'll come knocking on your door. So the priorities aren't quite right there, I would say.
Well, now, hold on a second. Let's think about this for a second. I mean, Sadiq Khan said part and parcel terrorism, part and parcel to living in a big city. I would say in the last 2 years, how many terror attacks have there been in England? What, like 10, 15, something like that? And maybe
that's
in
not
that,
even including the ones they prevent.
Okay, and so then maybe on top of that, though, let's take into consideration how many transsexual bathrooms have been rolled out, though? 10, 15, maybe? About 10 to 15 transsexual? So, I mean, that's a one-in-one deal. I mean, you're getting, for every terror attack, you're getting a tranny bathroom. I mean, what? You're not okay with that trade-off? What? I don't know.
I mean, it's such an infinitesimally small part of the population as well, actual transgender people, unless you're in the NHS and ask for a woman and get a man with double, of course.
It'll be like a situation, I don't know if it's like this in Europe, but here in America, if you want to go to some sort of store, you have to park like a half mile away if it's busy because there's like 50 handicapped parking spots before you can even find a spot. Well, there's not even one handicapped person that lives in the area, so they just sit vacant all day long. That's going to be what these transsexual bathrooms are like. Just going to be these transsexual bathrooms that are all pristine because nobody uses them.
I mean, even like unisex bathrooms, okay, but they still confuse some people. People are like, what? Where's the men's and women's?
Well, they don't want to get caught with their pants down, okay?
And then, of course, you've got the cases where actual predators use them to their own ends. Obviously, that's a few cases, but that's more of a problem than a trans. Like, if you dress like a woman and you really want to be a woman and you look like a woman, just use the frigging women's bathroom. If you actually look like a woman, no one's going to notice anyway. It's only the people who've got like just thrown on a dress and still have stubble. They're the ones having problems, and they're not even transgender. They're just transsexual. So it's complete nonsense. We've got actual crimes going on. And the police saying, no, we're more concerned about mean tweets than misgendering people. It's completely insane in this country. The UK is a meme. That's my next video. The UK is a meme. It's that intense and insane.
All right, there we've got it. Paul Joseph Watson, he just teased his next video. The UK is a meme. Honestly, though, I thought California was the craziest place to live. And then over the weekend, I realized all this just absolute nuttiness coming out of Europe. And I was just like, what is going on? So I've got more of that, too, on the other side. Paul Joseph Watson steps away. Look out for that next video. The UK is a meme. Thank you, Paul. We'll be right back. I've got so much news to cover here, and I don't even know where to begin, but since we just had Paul Joseph Watson on with us, I think I want to just go ahead and get into just laughing at liberals right here, because we've got plenty of liberals to laugh at. Now, there is a ton of news that we've got. Newswars.com, this story is up. UN chief calls for unity against nationalism. Yeah, we've been telling you about the plans for a one-world government. They call us conspiracy theorists. It's funny they don't use that term anymore because we just keep being right. Arctic outbreak setting record lows as dangerously cold wind chills infiltrates plains, Midwest and East, even down here in Texas. It's freezing. It's terrible. I think I'm going to bring back my pro-global warming campaign. So gear up for 2018, get a bigger truck, and start spraying some aerosols into the sky. So we've got all kinds of news. Donald Trump goes on Twitter today, says crooked Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, has been accused of disregarding basic security protocols. What do you know? Just like Hillary. She put classified passwords into the hands of foreign agents, just like the ones that hired a Juan. Remember sailors' pictures on submarine? Jail. Deep State Justice Department must finally act also on Comey and others. So President Trump is turning up the pressure cooker on the criminals that are behind the fake Trump-Russian collusion narrative. So we'll get into all that, but I just want to just get all of this laughing at liberals out of the way because we really got a lot of it here. Now, we were just talking with Paul Joseph Watson because some of this actually isn't that funny. Like when you have the story in the Metro that got published over the weekend, why you should buy your teenage kids sex toys. You know what's actually funny about this? And I just thought of this because if you go to the actual story, or which you can't anymore because they deleted it. So as soon as Alex started talking about this today, it was probably around noon Central here in Austin, Texas. They removed the story from their website. Metro did. But regardless, the original story had graphic images posted. And if you listen to Alex today, he was talking about it and how he was saying that he believes that it could actually be illegal for posting this stuff. It's basically, child porn. Pedophilic images. But I was just thinking about this. Some of the images that they had on there of, I guess, the supposed toys that they wanted you to buy for your kids, I've never even seen this stuff. I've never even seen some of this stuff. I don't even know what it is. I don't even want to know what it is. I'm not even sure where something like that would go. And yet and here they are like, hey, look at this. This is fun. Show it to your kid. Yeah, your kid's gonna find out about it anyway. Might as well learn about it from us. And I'm sitting here at 28 scratching my head like, wow, I've never even seen that. That can't be. Well, again, they erased this whole thing for obvious reasons. But it only took them, 5 days, 4 days? Just leave it up. Maybe they'll do, maybe what they'll do is a private release for children. They wanted to remove this from the public because it was so embarrassing. But you know what? They still care about the kids, and they still want those kids to have those sex toys that even I've never seen and don't want to know what they're supposed to do. So they'll make sure that your kids are still aware of that. But what kind of a person, honestly, is thinking about publishing a story like that? I just don't understand. Meanwhile, as we were just talking about with Paul Joseph Watson, London's Metropolitan Police won't investigate minor crimes, only hate crimes. And then you find out that most of these hate crimes are bogus anyway. Turkish state institution says girls can marry and get pregnant at age 9. Again, I'm sitting here wondering who possibly thinks this is okay. Apparently Turkey. Apparently Mohammed. I don't know. Not my cup of tea. Glad I don't live in Turkey. German political leader under police investigation over tweets about Muslim rape gangs. Now, this is really something to behold here. So, over New Year's, last year and this year, but last year the story was more viral because it was so insane. You've got these groups of migrant Muslims in gangs going around and gang raping women brutally in the street. So many of them, in fact, the police couldn't even do anything about it. So then this politician responds to a New Year's tweet that was put out in Arabic from, I guess it was an official German party, and it was the German police that sent it out? Okay, so the German police tweeted out in Arabic, Happy New Year. She responds by saying, how dare you do this? Just last year, a bunch of Muslim men were raping women in the streets. It was so out of control that we now had to increase our police force over New Year's. I mean, how dare you do that? How intolerant. And then guess who gets the backlash? The German political leader who is standing up for women who got raped. Beatrice von Storch. I mean, how dare she? Beatrix, why don't you shut up and let these migrants rape your German women? What is wrong with you? So that's nice. Swedish church, how about this one? Swedish church worships gender fluid Jesus. No. The female NHS nurse I asked for came in with stubble. Well, Johnny, that's not a woman. You know what? You know what? I should take that back. Some women actually do grow facial hair, so maybe she just hadn't groomed in a while. Or maybe it's the other. You know what? We're not going to have time for this video clip. Actually, maybe we do. How long is that CNN? In fact, roll the B-roll. CNN on New Year's. I'm frantically looking for my video list here. CNN over New Year's went full, I don't even know what you would call it. Yeah, the one where they're, I guess they're smoking a bong, apparently. Live, or no, a gas mask. Just go ahead and roll that B-roll behind me. So, CNN reporter celebrates New Year's Eve in legal recreational pot by lighting revelers' bong. So I guess just right. I didn't actually see this. The clip is playing behind me. You guys can put that on full screen. So I guess she's just hanging out there, as you can see. Oh yeah, man, I'm hanging out here in the van. Somebody just handed me this gas mask. It looks pretty sweet. So you know what? We're just gonna give it a go here. And then she just puts it over her head, and I guess this is CNN. I mean, CNN is so trendy now that they're just going right into the stoner circles and smoking the bong right on air. She's even got, is that a marijuana leaf? Wow, who is that reporter anyway? Hold on. Randy K. Randy K decides to end the year on a high note. This is hilarious. If you go to War Room Memes, we retweeted a meme. It's of her with the gas mask on. This is CNN. So no, CNN is just a bunch of crazies, yes. Well, you know what we like to do here on the War Room, and that's make memes. And that's why we have the Twitter account at War Room Memes. A meme was submitted to me just yesterday. Look at that one. This is CNN, and it's Randy K with the full-on gas mask at the New Year's Eve party. You know, look, it's fun to make fun of CNN, and for whatever reason, they seem to always make an ass of themselves on New Year's. This is like a new thing every New Year's Eve. CNN does something, or someone on CNN does something embarrassing. Just look at Don Lemon last year. Apparently, that's why he's taking fake shots now. We've got a video of that we can pull up, but I don't even, whatever, CNN, recreational weed, whatever, smoking weed. The thing that was funny about this to me is that they didn't even, it wasn't like, oh, okay, let's make a story. They've legalized weed in California. All right, we'll smoke a joint or something on air. We'll have something, little on air to commemorate. No, they go full on gas mask, it's like as full on as crazy as they could be. Not like, discretion, just give them the full on gas mask. And then she's just totally loving it. She puts it on her face on air. I mean, pull up the meme. Pull up the meme. So there it is. Oh, there's today's meme of the day. This is CNN, Randy K with the gas mask. So, that's actually amazing. We had the answers to two eternal questions answered in the year 2017. That was, why did the chicken cross the road? Because he was running from an INFOWARS report. And then whenever you're watching CNN, you're always asking yourself, what are they smoking? What are they smoking? Now you know, gas mask. So we now know, CNN, oh, that's why they're not making any sense. They just got done with the gas mask. So thank you, CNN, for memeing yourself. But the fake news doesn't just stop at CNN. There's the chicken man. What a beautiful shot that is of the chicken man. Why did the chicken cross the road? running from an INFOWARS video. I mean, what do you think this is? You think this is a game? No, we are getting the answers. So you saw the video, it went viral, of Chris Matthews blowing up on his staff over a hammer. It's the classic, or no, that's Lawrence O'Donnell. So you know about Lawrence O'Donnell. Sorry, I'm getting my MSNBC hosts mixed up here. You knew about Lawrence O'Donnell freaking out about the incessant hammering, the craziness in his ear. So you've got that going on. But now you've got this story. Chris Matthews runs an abusive work environment. Oh, what? No, not the loving, liberal, tolerant, pro-women's rights MSNBC. No. Host Chris Matthews apparently runs an openly derisive and brazenly sexist news operation. Wow. How about that? That's funny because we keep hearing about these MSNBC hosts treating women badly, running their office like a gulag. I mean, seriously, let's think about this. Matt Lauer apparently has some button that he can lock people in his office. NBC. Chris Matthews apparently just is running this horrid work environment, abusive work environment. He's rude, he's sexist, all of this stuff. You've got Lawrence O'Donnell, who treats his staff like a bunch of minions, screaming at them, berating them, yelling at them. You had the Chris Hayes allegations come out about Chris Hayes, the soy boy, a total fraud. I mean, wow. How about Psycho Joe? Psycho Joe and Crazy Mika, they get totally exposed as the psychopaths that they are. And then you have Rachel Maddow that they just trot out there every night as just a sight. I mean, do you understand that? Rachel Maddow is just like, it's like, you know, she's just like a sight. It's like a circus freak. That's what Rachel Maddow is. She's a circus freak that MSNBC puts out there a couple hours a night just to get you to watch. It's like a guy with 4 arms going out there. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. That's Rachel Maddow, psycho freak. Like, look at this freak. You're like, whoa, that's a real person. Oh my gosh. Trying to read news. Seriously. So MSNBC is just a complete debacle. And then look at this. Now here's what I'm thinking about this. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying let's watch this trend. NBC says Hoda to replace Lauer as Today co-anchor. Oh, whoa. What am I thinking here? All of these disgraced men, a la Matt Lauer, a la Charlie Rose, all of these disgraced men from the media, somehow Chris Hayes is still around. Somehow Brian Williams is still around. He is disgraced for other reasons, not because of alleged activity with women. But I have a feeling that as all of these men go down, like Charlie Rose, Matt Lauer, they're going to be replaced by women. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch out, to see if all of the men that end up falling to these allegations get replaced with women. Something tells me that's going to be the case. Maybe you've seen this story that's gone viral. Sanctuary state signs pop up on California highways for New Year. It's brilliant. You've got the Welcome to California sign, and then under that, someone put up a secondary sign, obviously a joke. Official sanctuary state, felons, illegals, and MS-13 welcome. Democrats need the votes. Boy, if that doesn't hit it right on the head, I don't know what does. So somebody totally trolls the state of California, puts this sign up all over these major highways. And there's a person in California, I actually believe they found out who it was, a street artist, who does propaganda on the streets where he makes it look like the official logo or the official ad for something. Like it'll look like an official Star Wars ad, but he'll put like little subliminals in there that you, if you really pay attention to, you can notice. He does it on, you know, walls and billboards, bus stop backs and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if it's the same guy responsible for this, but you know, brilliant work. And sometimes it's just hitting it right in your face like that already in the form of propaganda that you're used to, like a state highway street sign. I'm not saying that in and of itself is propaganda. I'm just saying you're just used to that being official. You're used to that green with the you know, reflection being official. So then you see that and it's like it clicks because that's how you're programmed to think. So that's going to be interesting to see how people respond to that. We've got, let's see, we've got just enough time here to laugh at some liberals. So let's go to this one. This is just like Chelsea Handler. My goodness. I mean, our thoughts and prayers. Democrats want everyone to have the right to vote. And this is where it gets out of control. Only Republicans try to make it harder for black people to vote because that's what Republicans stand for. Oh, and guns and Russia. Okay, well, definitely, I would say if you had to say Republicans took a stance on guns, they definitely were pro-guns. I've never in my life heard one Republican make a stand for making it harder for black people to vote. So I'm not sure where Chelsea Handler gets that thought nugget. She probably made it up herself. But what happened was she actually got her ridiculous thought nugget from a more ridiculous thought nugget from Clint Smith, a professor at Harvard, says, all these months later, and it still blows my mind, that the same folks who want black people to have 7 forms of ID and do the hokey pokey in order to vote don't care at all about the Russian election interference. Do you realize that not one thing in that tweet is real? That is a Harvard professor that doesn't even live in reality teaching children at Harvard. Russian election interference didn't happen. Black people doing the hokey pokey to vote. Okay.
Introduce.
So we're laughing at liberals here on the War Room to start 2018. But this is why CNN is really so disgusting and discredited and distasteful. They just tweeted this story out. I don't know if they just published a story or if they did a while ago, but I keep hearing this talking point repeated in the liberal media. CNN says, only a small slice of corporate America has shared tax saving with workers so far. Oh, really? You mean a week later? Boy, Donald Trump's tax cuts he signed them a week ago. Where's all that money? See, this is what they do. They try to twist people and they try to take advantage of whatever audience they have left's ignorance. It's like, oh yeah, look at this. Only a small slice of corporate America has shared those tax savings with their workers. It just got signed a week ago. And in case you haven't noticed, there have been 2 major holidays since then, Christmas and New Year's. Well, I mean, this is out of control. Trump cut the taxes a week ago. Why isn't corporate America sharing their savings? It's like, they haven't even paid their taxes yet. Wow. But I mean, again, Clint Smith. This is a Harvard professor. Oh, let me go into my Harvard professor voice. All these months later, and it still blows my mind that the same folks who want black people to have 7 forms of ID and do the hokey pokey in order to basically vote don't care at all about Russian election interference. That's from Clint Smith, a Harvard professor. So, but this is how amazing it is. Wherever, in fact, I will open up the phone lines in the 3rd hour specifically for black people to call in and tell me where you have to show 7 forms of ID to vote. Where is this? How do you even have 7 forms of ID? This is madness. And then do the hokey pokey, obviously kidding, but then serious, you know, why aren't we talking about the Russian election interference? No proof of that. And this whole thing is an attack on Republicans saying they don't care about the Russian election interference. Meanwhile, the Democrats have been caught red-handed trying to rig the election. So that's just the average thought process of a liberal, even when they're a professor at Harvard. How do you like that? This was a funny one on the New York Times today. How climate change deniers rise to the top in Google searches. Now, I covered this last week, because I don't want the Democrats to live this down, and this is how they're trying to twist it. No, you said global warming. That's what you said. You said global warming. You, Democrats, you said global warming. We said climate change. We said climate change. You said global warming. Your narrative failed. Fell on its face, just like it does every time. And so now, just like you do every time, because you have no maturity, you try to twist it and you say that we are the climate change deniers because we didn't accept global warming, even though we said it was climate change while you said global warming. And so now they're complaining, though, because the global warming hoax has set in. Global warming narrative, dead. Doesn't work. Nobody buys it anymore. So they try to twist it, and then they get offended because their global warming narrative failed, and now there's members of the media willing to call it out. So they're standing there like, oh my gosh, the people that said it was climate change that we now claim are climate change deniers are calling out all of our lies and fraud behind global warming. This is unacceptable. Wow. And so the New York Times is shocked when you search global warming. It's all the stories about how global warming has been debunked. But we're climate change deniers because we were right about global warming. I love how that works out. So Planned Parenthood says this on Twitter: if you thought 2017 was bad for reproductive rights, you haven't seen what the Trump administration has planned for 2018. Well, I don't think 2017 was nearly bad enough for what you call reproductive rights. But then they tweeted out this blog, and it basically talks about how the Trump administration wants to target Planned Parenthood and to target abortion. And so they say, for reproductive rights advocates, 2017 was a challenging year, to say the least. It goes on and on. The Trump administration attacking rights to or access to contraception and abortions. Yeah, we don't want it tax paid for. That's illegal. And so that's our issue. And so they always try to twist that. But again, how do they get away with this? Reproductive rights. Think about what they're saying. Reproductive rights. But what are they actually standing for? Methods of stopping reproduction. So here they are campaigning for quote unquote reproductive rights when they're campaigning for all the different methods and allowing access via taxpayer dollars for you to stop reproduction. What? Seriously, how does an individual sleep with themselves? I'm for reproductive rights. Oh, really? What do you stand for? Abortion. Okay. Well, I hope the Trump administration continues to attack Planned Parenthood and stop allowing Planned Parenthood to get taxpayer dollars. You know, this, I don't know how you cover this story. This is from Campus Reform. Florida joins push to outlaw free speech zones on campus. Now, this entire argument to me is null and void. You've got these universities that are pushing for quote unquote free speech zones, the Campus Free Expression Act. Do you have the right to free speech? Do you not have the right to free speech? What can you say? What can't you say? What happened to the First Amendment? We used to live in this country called America, where the entire country was a free speech zone. It was a revolutionary thing. And yet here we are in the year 2018, and we're having to push for free speech zones on campus because the liberals have destroyed the bastions of free speech college campuses. Speaking of liberals destroying everything, more specifically Democrats, not just murder, Chicago carjacking surged to highest point in at least a decade. You saw over the Christmas weekend, the homicide rate in Baltimore also reached a record high. These are Democrat-run cities. that the Democrats run right into the ground. And it's usually a deadly cycle. Just ask the people in Chicago. Just ask the people in Baltimore. Just ask Kate Steinle's family. So that's it, though. I think I just did it. I think I covered all of the liberal nonsense. I think I laughed at every liberal I possibly could. Oh, you know what? Maybe we'll get to that one later. So, okay. Yeah, I'll just say this. You've got the New York Times and the Washington Post now, and Drudge is kind of falling for it, trying to force Mitt Romney into the Senate. This is the New York Times and the Washington Post trying to make up elections for other states. They just did it in Alabama, although Roy Moore is suing for the election results, saying, with Orrin Hatch stepping down, Mitt Romney will come in. It's going to be Mitt Romney, says the Washington Post. It'll be Mitt Romney, says the New York Times. I got news for you. The Washington Post and the New York Times don't decide elections, and Mitt Romney is already too toxic, and he's already outed himself as a total fraud, so the people of Utah will decide who they want to win. Not you, New York Times, not you, Washington Post. Now, folks, you decide where to get your news from, and that's why people decide INFOWARS.com. And we're able to expand and allow you more videos to share, more articles to share, more broadcasts to share, more products to share, more specials to share, because at InfoWarsStore.com, we continue to expand with your support. Now, check this out. We've extended some of the New Year's specials here. It's pretty ridiculous. Listen to some of these specials that we have right now. Back in stock, Myco ZX is 25% off. Super Male Vitality is 50% off. That's a top seller. Silver Bullet, 67% off. You need that in the winter. Brain Force Plus, a top seller, 50% off. Alpha Power, a brand new product, 50% off. Another new product, Cell Force, 50% off. Folks, we don't make it hard for you to support us at InfoWarsStore.com. We sell great products. We have great discounts. And you see what happens when you fund us. We expand, we hire more people, we build more studios, and we keep kicking ass thanks to you at InfoWarsStore.com.
Welcome back. Yes, I'm your host, Roger Stone, and you're on the War Room. Well, in another stunning example of tomorrow's news today, only days ago, right here on InfoWars, I predicted not only the retirement of one of the great lions of the U.S. Senate, a friend of mine since 1976, Senator Orrin Hatch, and the fact that Mitt Romney, the former governor of Massachusetts and Republican candidate for president, would launch a bid for the Utah Senate seat as a launching pad for a 2020 challenge to President Donald Trump. I reported this both on the Alex Jones show and here on the War Room. So Matt Drudge, a good man and a good friend of mine, is merely reporting the news, and he's got it dead right. Let us recognize the heavy role of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, in Utah politics, the Romney's august position in the hierarchy of that church, and the long, therefore, Romney family ties to the state of Utah. It is noticeable that Mitt Romney's father, George, was the governor of Michigan, yet he always had deep support within the Utah Republican Party because of his family roots. There is no doubt whatsoever that Mitt Romney was stung by the fact that Donald Trump did not appoint him to the position of Secretary of State while dangling it publicly. On the other hand, if you look at the news about our new troop allotments to Afghanistan, Romney might as well have gotten the job. We'll have in the next segment a tribute to Senator Orrin Hatch, one of the true giants of the Senate, a man who has grown in stature and wisdom, but who is a true independent, one who supported Ronald Reagan when few others would do so in 1979 and 80, one who has more recently gone on to champion the cause of state legalized marijuana, a true states' rights conservative. So more about Orrin Hatch, a great patriot, in the next segment. Also a special report, Owen, on the president's seeming flip-flop on troops in Afghanistan, and the inside skinny on Rex Tillerson and why he seems to be going, he seems to be staying, he seems to be going. I only came to say I must be going.
Well, it's 2018, Roger, and, there's going to be a lot more White House intrigue coming up this year. And it's amazing to me, you talk about Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch was honestly one of the few staunch patriots to me that had been in Congress for a while now. And you go back and look at his track record, and it kind of symbolizes a changing of the guard where the old hat patriots that have been around for a while kind of feel like their time has finally come for them to step down and let some new blood in there. But here comes Mitt Romney, one of the, in my opinion, rats during the presidential campaign that tried to make sure Trump wouldn't win. And he's got to slip his foot into the race, and he's got to get the Washington Post and the New York Times to back him and try to fix another election just like they did in Alabama.
Well, the great thing about Orrin Hatch is, even though he was in Washington a long time, he never became an establishment Republican. He was always the solid, free-thinking, independent conservative he was when he first went there. So a great man has announced his retirement today, and we have a little package on him to discuss him in the next segment. You're in the right place. The War Room with Owen Schroyer, fresh off his victory lap as one of the best and worst, in this case, best dressed men in America in my 2017 list last week. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're at the right place. That's right. You're at the War Room. If you like our extended... Here we go. If you like our extended programming, the fact that we're now on 10 hours a day, and you can see the incredibly opulent sets that we have here at the War Room, remember that we are completely and totally listener and viewer supported. We don't have any conservative fat cats subsidizing us. We don't get a big grant from the Board for Public Broadcast or any of that left-wing nonsense. We are totally self-sustaining with the support of patriots like you. And we couldn't even think about this extraordinary expansion of both talent and our facilities and our coverage without, a vigorous and healthy business at the INFOWARS site. Alex Jones, in a way, has made this easy because he is a stickler for quality. He and the scientists he works with, in some cases, have come up with some extraordinarily all-natural formulas that are, in my case, proven to be successful for mental energy, physical energy, just general well-being, and so on. And you can also get First Amendment-oriented T-shirts, extraordinary books like The Making of the President, 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated an American Revolution. It explains the pivotal role played by INFOWARS and the alternative media in that seminal moment in which we saved our democracy, most likely. So please, folks, go to the site, take advantage of the extraordinary sales there. Some of our most basic and popular products. My book now, $19.95. The extraordinary T-shirts, which are great gifts for those on your list who you forgot at Christmas. And now in a CYA move, you've got to send something out. Go to the site. We can help you with that right now. The libertarians, the patriots, the freedom fighters in your family will love it. Okay, Owen, as I said in our first segment, I really think one of the giants of the U.S. Senate moved on today. I met Orrin Hatch in 1975 when I was working as one of the founders and the treasurer of the National Conservative Political Action Committee. Hatch's family had deep roots in Utah, although he had more recently worked as a labor lawyer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He told us at the National Conservative Political Action Committee that he was going to go back to Utah and he was going to challenge Democrat Senator Frank Moss Frank Moss was considered an unbeatable institution. He was a liberal Democrat, but also a prominent member of the Mormon Church. He was widely respected in Washington. Hatch first had to get by a Republican candidate named Jack Carlson. Carlson was the designee of the party establishment in Utah. He was the man handpicked by the power brokers in that party. It's important to note that the Utah Republican Party has always had factions in it, but Hatch was a decided underdog. The process of nomination for the U.S. Senate in Utah is first a state party convention, and if one achieves a certain percentage of the vote but loses, they are entitled to pursue the nomination through a direct primary. Orrin Hatch very wisely connected his star to that of a certain California former governor, Ronald Reagan. Jack Carlson, of course, was supporting his former boss, the affable but dumb Gerald R. Ford. And Utah is a deeply conservative state. Hatch not only scored in the state convention, but he went on to win an upset in the primary. Many people assumed, therefore, it would be the end of Orrin Hatch as he took on the entrenched incumbent Frank Moss. Hatch came out of nowhere and beat Moss going away, going to the U.S. Senate with no prior elected experience whatsoever. He is a man of enormous courage. He is a man of enormous decency. He is a man of enormous courtesy, and he is a man of enormous integrity. His recent position to demand more authoritative medical research into the value of cannabis and support the state's rights to legalize medicinal cannabis is yet another act of courage in the Orrin Hatch story. I am very proud, Owen, to call him my friend.
Well, and the Congress loses a patriot, no doubt, when Orrin Hatch steps down. And you just wonder if anybody can really fill those shoes. As I was saying in the shorter segment, Roger, I think that we've kind of reached this time. You know, we've seen Chaffetz step down. You're hearing about Orrin Hatch. There's some other names that have talked about stepping down, where some people, I think, a la Jeff Flake, a Senator Flake from Snowflake, Arizona, he basically just crumpled under the pressure, and he knows he can't win again. That's why he steps away. But a man like Orrin Hatch, to me, steps away because he feels now, after being a staunch patriot in Congress and representing the people of Utah, that he can finally step away and leave Congress in good hands and trust that it's not going to be washed away by a bunch of liberals that are trying to bring this country down. So, you know, I think Orrin Hatch feels like he sees America coming back. He sees the economy coming back. He sees Trump appointing conservative judges, etc. And I think he feels a lot more comfortable to step away at this time.
Well, make no bones about it, Owen. I think this is significant. The president, and I think Steve Bannon and others, did mount an effort to persuade Senator Hatch to run one more time, which would have been an enormous sacrifice, and, of course, would have blocked Mitt Romney and a Romney challenge, which, folks, is most definitely coming. The good senator did something that most politicians in Washington never do. He is stepping away from power when he can do so voluntarily. They always stay too long, and then they end up being embarrassed by defeat or worse. I think of my friend, Senator Arlen Specter, a giant of the Senate as well, but a man who, one must argue, stayed much too long. Orrin Hatch, Senator John Tower, the only two I know who have stepped away when they decided it was time. Orrin Hatch has done his service to his state and his country. He's done it with aplomb, and therefore we wish him the very best. But this was a decision that has enormous national political implications for the president and the future of the Republican Party.
And I think it was Hatch was like one of 5 members of Congress that were still there that were there when the first ever live broadcast of C-SPAN went out. It was, I think it was June in the early 80s is when that was, and Hatch was one of the very few that was there for that. But, you know, to go back about what you just said as we're about to go to break here, Roger, I fully expect Mitt Romney to try to win that seat, and who knows what type of campaign he'll try to run. I don't think he can trick anyone as to being a Trump supporter at this point, but maybe that's what he'll try. But Roger, I completely agree. When you aggregate news and you can see trends, you can already see what's going on. First, you know, the New York Times says Orrin Hatch retires, opening path for Mitt Romney. So it's not about Orrin Hatch, it's about Mitt Romney. And then the Washington Post, why likely Senator Mitt Romney could be a real headache for Trump. So the New York Times floats the idea out there, and then the Washington Post slams it home by saying he'd be a headache for Trump. This is how the deep state works. Go ahead, Roger.
They weren't floating the idea. They saw me say it on INFOWARS 2 weeks ago, and they found out I was accurate. Mitt Romney has been planning this for some time. Welcome back. You're on the War Room here at INFOWARS with my colleague, the ever dapper Owen Schroyer, and yours truly, Roger Stone. Welcome to 2018 and the War Room. It is important, because we keep track of these things, to know that I predicted here on INFOWARS some months ago that Trump Secretary of State Rex Tillerson would leave the administration at the end of the year. On another occasion, I think I said around January 1st. I was assured by no less than 3 truly senior members of the administration that it was only a matter of time and the orchestration of a graceful exit for Mr. Tillerson, so it would not appear that he was pushed out. Mr. Tillerson and the president never had terrific chemistry, and there were times when the president appeared to be contradicting his Secretary of State. That is, of course, his prerogative. What is not a prerogative is the Secretary of State countermanding or disagreeing publicly with the president. Rex Tillerson, in my view, harmed himself when he felt compelled, for some bizarre reason, to put distance between himself and his boss, the president, on the question of the riot in Charlottesville. What part of our foreign policy does this particular issue entail? As I had said, in the case of Nikki Haley, the asp in the bosom that is in the UN, a globalist, a neocon, and a woman who viciously attacked Donald Trump in a paid broadcast by the House and Senate Republican establishments, both of them should understand that if, as a member of the cabinet, you cannot agree with the president or you disagree, the proper thing to do is be silent. Protocol dictates that you do not denounce your boss, the person who gave you the privilege of high public service, strictly at his or her sufferance in public. The trashing of Trump by Nikki Haley, saying that the bogus women who I believe have falsely and without foundation accused him of sexual harassment, her view that they should be listened to is outrageous. She's entitled to think that. She's just not entitled to say it, by and large. And Rex Tillerson weighing in on the Antifa fraud that was Charlottesville. Completely unnecessary. When President Richard Nixon was a president and conducting a very unpopular war in Vietnam, his Secretary of the Interior, Walter Hickel, a former governor of Alaska, ironically a future governor of Alaska, who came back and won that office as an independent many, many years after winning it the first time, disagreed publicly with Richard Nixon's views or his handling on the Vietnam War. He was fired summarily. Now, to come back to the question of Mr. Tillotson, because InfoWarriors have a right to know whether my predictions are accurate, suddenly comes news that Tillotson is not leaving. Well, my own investigation indicates that this happened only after a private luncheon meeting with General Mattis and the White House Chief of Staff, General John Kelly. We do not know what reason they gave the president, who had signed off on Tillotson's leaving, for Tillotson staying, at least for the time being. But I have my own view as to why they are keeping this globalist, who never hit it off with Donald Trump, in the top diplomatic job. They need his vote in a 25th Amendment play. Remember, trigger the 25th Amendment to remove Donald Trump from the presidency in the event that Mueller tries to take the president down and fails. That is what I think will happen. Requires a majority vote of Trump's own cabinet and the support of the most ambitious Vice President, Mike Pence. Some people may say, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. The president just passed the greatest tax cut in American history. The economy's on the rebound. Surely they would not try something out so illicit, so outrageous, so obvious. My friends, you misunderstand the depth of the enmity and the resolve of the globalist pukes that have run this country into the gutter. They are still insulted by the stunning come-from-behind victory of Donald Trump. When Jeb Bush turns to him in the debate and says, "You're not going to insult your way into the White House, Donald. That's not going to happen." Oh, really, Jeb? Really? So do not underestimate the intention and the duplicity of the two-party duopoly. Oh, and mark my words, we're going to be talking a lot more about the 25th Amendment in 2018.
Well, they're going to have to do something. Especially with Trump's popularity rising, Roger, I think that this is something that they're starting to realize now. They thought with their fake news, their fake stories, their fake Russian investigation and all this stuff, that they could keep President Trump's popularity low, they could keep his support low, and then when they came to invoke a 25th Amendment or whatever it is they choose to try to impeach him and to remove him from office, they assumed that they would have the public support there. But now with the tax cuts, now with Americans realizing the Russian collusion investigation is fake, now with all the dirty tactics from the Democrats being exposed and how most of this, all of it really finds its roots in the Clinton campaign as far as the dossier and the Russian collusion and all that stuff. I think they're in a real predicament here, Roger, because they don't have the public support that they thought they would have when they try to remove the president. And so now they have to try to do something, I think, as soon as possible because they realize that Trump's approval ratings are probably just going to keep going up.
Because they have done it in the past, look at the way they cheerled the Iraq War to success. They believe that a sustained attack on Trump, he's crazy, he's insane, he's nutty, he's mentally unbalanced, can turn the tide. They would have to create an atmosphere of hysteria to pull this off. Unthinkable? Perhaps, but not to them. Let's pick this up on the other side. The 25th Amendment play to take down Donald Trump. You'll get the inside right here at the War Room. Welcome back. You are at Freedom Command Central. It's the War Room here at InfoWars. In the last segment, we talked about the outside influence of some of the president's globalist appointees. Many people ask me when I am out on the circuit doing book signings or even coming to Austin for INFOWARS, why the president has appointed so many establishment Republicans. In all honesty, I think the president, a non-politician, honestly believed that the Republican Party would unite around him as they did around Ronald Reagan, whose nomination they also opposed. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. In other cases, I think the president is misled about exactly who he is appointing. The neocon and Bush aspects of their resumes carefully hidden from the president. That has gotten us appointees such as H.R. McMaster. Now, the president, Donald Trump, ran for president as a non-interventionist. Sick of the endless foreign wars that drain our treasury and cost us American lives, he pledged a new and different approach. The president very specifically pointed out to the history lesson of Afghanistan. As the president has told me personally, the Afghani fighters are known around the globe as some of the fiercest warriors on the planet. The Afghanis have defeated both the British and the Russians. The president suggested, while a candidate, that he would withdraw us, that we were spending billions and lives and winning nothing. As we reported exclusively here at INFOWARS not that long ago, the president, after enormous pressure from the NSA and the Pentagon, said that we would continue our presence in Afghanistan, implied that it would be a ramp down of our deployment there, but did say quite clearly that he would leave the final decision on the actual number of troops to General Mattis. Unfortunately, we reported here at INFOWARS that General H.R. McMaster, the National Security Advisor, attempted to get the president to sign off on the deployment of 50,000 troops. That would be our largest single deployment. Quite clearly, in violation of the Trump doctrine, we are getting in deeper. We are not phasing out. We are ramping up. This is a classic example of the Republican and Democratic neocon establishment perverting the president's policies. Now, there's so much today to be thankful for. The tax cut, the cut in a regulation, the booming stock market, restoring confidence in America's economy. These are enormous. It is the economy that is the driving engine for the president's success. The president's position on immigration, where we're actually enforcing the law. The president's taking the lead on Islamic terrorism, calling it exactly what it is, and vowing to crush it. There are many things to be thankful for. If I have two criticisms for the last year, it is the reversal of our position on Afghanistan and what is so far my disappointment that the president has not appointed a blue ribbon commission to study the safety of vaccines. The president told us when he was the president-elect that he had asked Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the environmentalist and son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York, to head such a commission. And then we've heard nothing. Yet the president has appointed mandatory vaxxers to numerous public health positions. So I appeal to the president. I appeal to his historic position on both of these issues, but it shows you the erosion that is manifested by the establishment quislings and the elite appointees who have burrowed into this administration, Owen?
Well, he hasn't even been in for a year yet. And I think that obviously he has to pick and choose his battles as far as his appointees and how much detail or the attention to detail in some of these appointees. But, I look at, just to take a step back real quick, I look at what you reported on, which now the New York Times and the Washington Post has hinted at, that Mitt Romney is going to be trying to take the seat from Orrin Hatch. It's a similar situation where I think you've got Mitt Romney, who pretended to like Trump and then basically got egg on his face because Trump dangled the appointment in front of him and then ripped it away because Mitt Romney was insulting Trump and lying about President Trump during the campaign. Well, the people of Utah aren't going to forget that. And like you said, Trump supporters are keen, they're aware, they're well-researched to know enough about certain people getting in and trying to infiltrate Trump's base or trying to infiltrate Trump's appointment cabinet or this, that, or the other thing. So they're not going to fall for this. Just like they look at Tillerson and scratch their head and wonder what the deal with him is, or they look at H.R. McMaster and scratch their head, they're going to be scratching their head over this Mitt Romney trying to replace Orrin Hatch, and I just don't think they're going to fall for it. I just feel like Trump supporters are too observant and well aware of their geopolitical surroundings to not just fall for Mitt Romney, but as you're saying, to ignore appointments or people in Trump's cabinet that might not be doing something that Trump's base likes.
Well, here's the fundamental question. Will anybody viable challenge Mitt Romney in the Utah Republican primary for the U.S. Senate? We do not know the answer to that question today. Tune in to the War Room tomorrow evening, and we will have a special report for you.
Well, how about this? Since we're on that subject line, Michelle Bachmann wonders if God wants her to run for Al Franken's seat. Am I being called to do this now? Well, of course, this fully triggered liberals out there. How dare she mention God? How dare she have a relationship with God? How dare she speak to God? But however, on the political aspect of this, you got to like this, Roger. I mean, I think Michelle Bachmann could very easily win Al Franken's seat in an election.
Well, Minnesota is an interesting state, and Minnesota has always had a very, very strong pro-life movement in both of the major Republican parties. It is really has a reputation as a liberal state, but Donald Trump ran very strongly there and almost won in a shocker, and the state does swing. Michelle Bachmann is as far out of the Minnesota mainstream as Al Franken is. She's probably a bit too conservative for the state, but then for that matter, Al Franken was too liberal for the state. You could make the case that Franken stole the seat in a recount anyway against the more centrist incumbent Norm Coleman. But it will be interesting to watch. Minnesota, who'd ever thunk it? Just because we reported the Franken matter here first doesn't mean we made it happen. It only means that you get tomorrow's news today. We are the tip of the spear. We are the heartbeat of the resistance. We are on the cutting edge in the fight to defeat the atheistic, godless globalists and make America great again. You know, I think back, Owen, to the period in which Donald Trump was fighting for the nomination, and many who thought that Alex Jones's early and outspoken support was foolhardy. People like Glenn Beck, you remember him? He used to be kind of big in conservative media. I don't know what's happened to him more recently. I don't see his name very much.
He was brought down to size.
Others like National Review and others. And as I said last night, or I guess it was New Year's Eve, in our last end-of-the-year broadcast, Alex Jones never once lost the faith. even when the Trump campaign went through some of its bleakest days, even under the extraordinary attack that was marshaled by the mainstream media, even in the wake of the Billy Bush tape and the famous grab their you-know-what controversy, Alex Jones was never once despondent, never once wanted to abandon the ship. He was a stoic who insisted that Trump would win to the bitter end, and he was absolutely right. So I toasted him on New Year's Eve because I understand the extraordinary role that INFOWARS played in Donald Trump's ascendancy for the nomination. I understand who votes in Republican primaries. I understand who turns out for the Republican caucuses. I know they hate this over at CNN, but it's the info warriors. We conducted a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, and we're all very proud of our role. As we have said many times, there is no Karl Rove in Trump world. Donald Trump is his own speechwriter, his own policy man, his own phrase maker, his own strategist. And he's damn good at it. He has a unique understanding of the media. People lose sight of the fact that whether he was in wrestling or on The Apprentice or in the beauty pageant business, he was always in the entertainment business. And Donald Trump understands that politics is entertainment, or more precisely, when a politician, or in this case, a political leader, ceases to be entertaining, well, that's when they start losing public support because they lose public interest for the platform for their ideas. You can read about the extraordinary, unprecedented, come-from-behind victory by Donald Trump at the making of the president, 2016, how Donald Trump orchestrated a revolution. I think you'll particularly enjoy some of the photographs in this book. But if you want to know how Trump pulled it off, what were the circumstances for the greatest upset in American political history, it's all right there, Owen. I'm very proud of it.
Well, I think that Donald Trump is probably the most talked about, most written about, most covered individual, ever. As far as, I can tell. Who else gets the type of coverage that he gets worldwide? Who else is talked about like he's talked about worldwide? Every country, every news outlet. You've seen the studies. You've seen the numbers. And that's because what he is doing is the stuff of legend, Roger. And I don't know if many people fully understand it yet or have come to grips with that yet. I know that this, again, triggers all those liberals out there, all the racists out there. But Trump is doing the work of legend right now, trying to restore the American economy that's been deteriorated over the years, trying to destroy the American border that's been deteriorated over the years, and bring back the American dream that's been deteriorated over the years. And he's actually successful. That's as if it's not enough that he's trying to do it. He's actually done it, Roger.
Well, and Owen, this is a man who was elected president without spending any money on expensive polling, without spending any money on substantial paid television advertising or paid radio advertising. This is a phenomena unto itself. We're trained in American politics that those are the accoutrements of the national modern presidential campaign. But if you look at the way these numbers stack up, and by the way, I think Hillary's number is low, but that's the Washington Post for you.
Well, you got to remember that David Brock, he's got to take his cut.
Well, and as we learned today, that he put up $200,000 as bait to pay women who would falsely claim they'd been assaulted by Donald Trump. And they still couldn't get any takers because it's a lie. Climb back under your rock, Mr. Brock.
That's right. Yeah, just to clarify the story Roger's talking about here, Hillary Clinton backer paid $500,000 to fund women accusing Trump of sexual assault and misconduct before Election Day. Susie Tompkins Bell, Clinton campaign donor for many years, gave the money to Lisa Bloom. And then, Lisa Bloom just says, I might have some women that have just gotten the courage, Roger. They just found the courage, didn't they?
Well, there's a corollary story. This woman, I think, also funneled money through David Brock's phony baloney organization. Look, how do you spend $30 million in independent expenditure and lose? There was never any effective, in terms of size, independent expenditure for the president. That's because the special interests and the billionaire globalists who have been funding American politics in both parties wanted nothing to do with Donald Trump. It is his own personal wealth and his reach that provides his total independence. That's what drives the Washington establishment so crazy. You cannot buy Donald Trump. You cannot bully Donald Trump. Nobody puts words in Donald Trump's mouth, and nobody tells Donald Trump where he can and cannot go. That's why it's refreshing to have him just up the road here in Palm Beach, where his many friends can visit with him. It drives the White House staff crazy. Good God. He may give an unscheduled interview to the New York Times, for example. Owen, can you imagine that?
Well, I'm thinking that this year we're going to see a phenomenon, Roger, where all these people, well, not all of them, Trump derangement syndrome is very real, and some people have fully committed to it. But I think the average individual out there who thought A or B about Trump because they heard it on fake news is just going to become very turned off by it. They're not going to be as motivated. They're going to see that they're getting more money on their paycheck because of these tax cuts, so that kind of just like thin veneer of hatred for President Trump that kind of the fake liberals that just like to be trendy have been buying into. I think that goes away in 2018. I think it goes away. They realize that their effort and their thought and everything that they put behind it isn't really working out for them. And you know what? At the end of the day, they like getting more money on their paycheck too. So it's going to be just the few and far between, I think, from this point out, as far as just the average individual out there hating Trump. I just don't expect to see that much in 2018 from the average individual. The full-on Trump derangement syndrome will still be there, but the average individual, the average liberal, the average Democrat, I think that they're going to come around.
Look, we need to focus on 2018 before we focus on 2020. It's very clear the president is going to campaign on jobs and growth, and the Democrats are going to campaign on impeachment. That's it. They don't have anything else. It is a weak read indeed. So join us tomorrow. We're going to talk about Jeff Sessions and his unrelenting drive to crack down on state legalized marijuana. We're going to bring you an update from the field in Utah to see if Mitt Romney will sail to the U.S. Senate nomination unopposed. Come back to us tomorrow night at the War Room for the greatest update on American politics, and in order to get tomorrow's news today, or tomorrow's news the following day. Many thanks.
Well, Huma Abedin must be shaking in her little pantsuit today, as this morning President Trump tweets out, crooked Hillary Clinton's top aide Huma Abedin has been accused of disregarding basic security protocols. What do you know, just like Hillary Clinton. She put classified passwords into the hands of foreign agents, and who knows what else via the Iwans. Remember sailors' pictures on submarine? Jail. Deep State Justice Department must finally act, ? Also Comey and others. So is that Trump signaling out to the Justice Department saying, hey, look, I know what you're up to. If you don't act against Huma Abedin, we're going to have to do some serious looking into you. But over the weekend, on a higher note, President Trump reminded us what a great year 2017 was as he tweets out a 2017 recap.
each American generation passes the torch of truth, liberty, and justice in an unbroken chain all the way down to the present. That torch is now in our hands, and we will use it to light up the world. Today, I am keeping another promise by nominating Judge Neil Gorsuch. We love our police, we love our sheriffs, and we love our ICE officers. Together, we're going to restore safety to our streets and peace to our communities. And we're going to destroy the vile criminal cartel MS-13 and many other gangs.
We're going to get you back and operating immediately. Thank you. Your governor has done a fantastic job.
I declare today for the world to hear that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail. Our people will thrive. And our civilization will triumph. We will defeat radical Islamic terrorism, and we will not allow it to take root in our country. We have created more than 2 million jobs since the election. Unemployment is at a 17-year low. The stock market is at an all-time high and hit yet another all-time high, the 85th time since my election. We have cut 22 regulations for every one new regulation, the most in the history of our country. We are going to be celebrating Merry Christmas again. $3.2 trillion in tax cuts for American families, including doubling the standard deduction and doubling the child tax credit. The typical family of four earning $75,000 will see an income tax cut of more than $2,000, the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We are a nation of pioneers and patriots, aviators and astronauts. We crave adventure and achievement, exploration and enlightenment. We gave birth to the modern world, and we will shape tomorrow's world with the strength and skill of American hands. Because for America, the sky is never the limit.
And President Trump says 2018 is going to be even better. What to expect as we just kick off 2018. When we come back, I've got some breaking news at INFOWARS.com, as well as some other interesting news that I'm not really seeing breaking yet. You're going to want to stick around and hear this. Don't go anywhere. This is The War Room. Welcome back to The War Room. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer. Roger Stone has stepped away, but he did accurately report last week that Romney was going to be the one challenging for Warren Hatch's seat as he's going to retire. And this is, I'm just telling you, as somebody that aggregates news, you can see how they do this stuff. You can see the psychological game. So Romney, to me, is now clearly part of the anti-Trump deep state. So first, the New York Times suggests that with Orrin Hatch retiring, that opens the path for Mitt Romney. So that's them first kind of laying the groundwork for you to open your mouth. Mitt Romney, yes. Then the Washington Post comes in and slams it home. Why likely Senator Mitt Romney could be a real headache for Trump. So that's how they try to manifest and become a self-fulfilling prophecy there. Whereas Roger Stone just tells you, yeah, he's running. Because we're not trying to make any twisted propaganda. And we're not the New York Times and the Washington Post that thinks that they can decide every local election ever. But, you know, let me just get back into the CNN stuff before I go to the breaking news that's at Infowars.com right now. First, you had CNN, and they actually, I think they may have just changed this headline since we reported on this earlier. Only a small slice of corporate America has shared tax savings with workers so far. I forget, maybe it was the tweet that was basically saying that it's not happening at all. Now they're admitting a small some are because, yeah, you had people giving raises, you had people giving bonuses, and that was big news. I guess CNN just didn't report it, so they figured that their audience was so ignorant that they could just report fake news as they always do. But now they're admitting, oh, wait, you know what? The tax cuts that haven't even been a month old yet are actually benefiting the average American. So, but that's all right, CNN. Keep alienating and marginalizing yourself into oblivion. And then you've got this from CNN. Civil rights resolutions for a better America in 2018. So it's basically, you know, everything's racist. America's racist. Trump is racist. Trump got elected because he's racist. You're a racist. I'm a racist. We're all just racist. I don't know how we can even live together because we all hate each other so much, according to these liberals. But it's just amazing how they twist things over there. And here's the thing. I was going to actually give these dim-witted liberals a reprieve to start 2018. But now I've realized that no. Because they're not going to stop in 2018, so we can't stop either. So here's what I'm going to do. In fact, I'll just go ahead and say this now. The audience can take up on this too. From now on, I am going to try to avoid the term liberal. And we're going to slowly implement this. And I wasn't going to do this, but now I've decided to today because of this race-baiting article and this fake news article from CNN basically insinuating that racism is running the White House in America and it's all about white people. So from now on, I'm going to stop using the phrase liberal and the term liberal, and it's now racists. So liberals are now racist. So from now on, when we're talking liberal and we want to say liberal this, no longer use liberal, instead say racist, because they are the racists. And I honestly thought that this is not how I was going to start my new year, reading about how I'm a racist on CNN. I thought maybe they'll back off and we can give them a reprieve. Nope, they offer us no quarter. So here you go. Here's your racist article by Ben Crump, a good racist, over at this CNN News Network, the most racist name in news. So that's what I'm going to do in 2018. We're going to brand you the racists. This is how it works. You tried to call us fake news, it boomeranged back, and now you're the fake news. So now we're going to do the same thing with the term racist. You want to call us racist all day long? Fine. We're going to give it right back to you, and guess where it's going to stick, CNN? Oh, I'm sorry. Who is it that actually has lawsuits going right now about racist behavior? CNN. Yeah, that's CNN that has civil rights lawsuits going on right now. The racist CNN. So get ready for that, CNN. That's not going to bode well for you. All right, so this is now breaking at INFOWARS.com. Germany to censor media in upcoming Nazi-style purge. German government using Hitler-style law to censor news reports. German officials will start censoring INFOWARS and other media that report on Germany's migrant crisis that makes Chancellor Merkel look bad. Well, it's nice to see that Germany is finally retreating back to their Nazi roots and censoring free speech. Congratulations, Germany. You have a leader in Angela Merkel that wants to destroy your country and limit your access to news. Good for you, Germany. Good luck with that. Boy, aren't you glad you're not German? No offense to you if you are, but we didn't elect Merkel here. You know, here's a story that I'm surprised hasn't gone viral on the conspiracy circles yet. Bridgewater executive and family among 12 dead in Costa Rica plane crash. Bridgewater. Do you know what Bridgewater is all about? Well, I know that that's formerly where James Comey came from. So James Comey used to be at Bridgewater. When is this story going to go viral in the conspiracy theory circles? Former Bridgewater executive and family dead in Costa Rica plane crash. Very sad stuff there. All right. You know what? Let's go to this video, guys. Let's go to clip 6. This is Steve Cohen on MSNBC saying Trump is the most despicable human being. A Democrat from Tennessee who probably just cost himself his job says Trump is the most despicable human being ever. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
But Donald Trump is the most despicable human being to ever reside at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Congressman, let me ask you.
Hold on. Time out. These are the same racists that cry about our history of slavery. So I'm not saying that that's, but look, if they're going to all sit here and say that America's history is so bad because we used to own slaves, how is Donald Trump the most despicable human being to be in the White House when there were slave owners in the White House? I don't think Steve Cohen fully thought that one through. Let's go back to the racist Steve Cohen.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say a narcissistic sociopath doesn't change, and it endangers the country, and war, like Wag the Dog, is something he could get into to improve the ratings for the 18 elections where they are in desperate shape.
Oh.
He'll do anything to improve
Wait,
ratings.
so now he's saying...
Point across without bringing
Okay, go ahead and pause it there. So just making all these statements, no foundation. And they keep saying this. They keep trying to push these narratives about Trump, and they never stick. The Democrats are the ones that have destroyed America. The Democrat inner cities are the ones that are falling apart. Let's go back to Steve Cohen here.
Going to church, barren, the child of a president?
Well, I think you have to show, and I hope I can show, what type of person he is. He's never with his son, and I think one of his ex-wives
my gosh,
he never was with his children until they were adults.
Now he's attacking his family. Hold on. Pause it again. Okay, again, I'm not trying to make a statement here. I'm just making comparisons. It was Barack Obama's daughter who got caught on film twerking with basically her butt out, smoking marijuana at parties. That wasn't Trump's kids. It was Hillary Clinton who had a daughter with Webb Hubble, and then Bill Clinton who had a son, Danny Williams, that Hillary Clinton completely abandoned. And then this Cohen, this Democrat from Tennessee, is going to get up here and try to act like Trump isn't a family man and doesn't spend time with Barron. They made fun of a viral video of Trump in the car listening to Taylor Swift with Barron. I mean, this guy is so off of his rocker, I think he's fallen over and had a heart attack. Help me, I haven't gotten up. My name is Steve Cohen. Help me. I've fallen and I can't get up. I keep saying Trump is a racist, but nobody will listen. So now I'm going to say Trump doesn't spend enough time with his kids. Oh, maybe they'll listen to that. Steve Cohen, a Democrat in Tennessee, I don't think he's got much longer. Promises made, promises kept. Trump reduced refugees by 70% in 2017. How about that? The Center for Immigration Studies have released the documents so you can see those numbers for yourself. One thing that you'll notice was different beyond just the sheer numbers, the sheer volume of refugees coming in 70% down. The amount of Christians taken in versus the amount of Muslims has made a very distinct change as well, where we used to exclusively seemingly want Muslims in here. Now we are taking in Christians, which is the most hated and scorned group of people on the planet. So that would actually make more sense as opposed to what we were doing before. But regardless, promise made by Trump, reduce the refugees, promise kept by Trump in 2017. Now, we've got this video. I'm going to try to get to it. Lindsey Graham seeming to confirm that the dossier was what they used to eavesdrop on Trump. Well, that's where all the signs are pointing. That's where all the evidence is pointing. And I think that that's why this thing has gotten so toxic. But I keep going back to this tweet because this is Trump signaling to the American people. This is Trump like a lighthouse where we're all kind of floating out at sea wondering where there'll ever be any justice for Hillary Clinton. Will there ever be any justice for what Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner and all these people were doing with these private servers? This is Trump like a lighthouse signaling to us, I'm aware. I know what's going on. I know how corrupt Hillary is. I know how corrupt Huma Abedin is. I know about all of this. I know about the double standards. I know about the deep state. And he's saying, look, she belongs in jail. Now, of course, if Trump tried to take action into his own hands, they would immediately be excoriating him. So he plays it patiently and I think waits for them to kind of fall on their own petard, as we're starting to see happen here. Look at this stack of news that I'm going to try to pile drive through before we get to Lindsey Graham here. Hillary backer paid $500 grand to fund women accusing Trump of sexual harassment before Election Day. So this is what we're finding out now. And it always comes back to Lisa Bloom and Gloria Allred. I know. Surprise, surprise. The same people that tried to bring down Roy Moore, and I guess you could say did so successfully as the Democrat Jones won that election. But that is being challenged and being looked at right now. But that's what you get. See, people think that it's just like a go-to calling card or like a dog whistle for a conservative to say, well, I bet this came from Hillary Clinton. No, this has Hillary Clinton's paw prints written all over it. Folks, these are the dirtiest. I'm telling you, everything originates in Hillary Clinton's brain. This is the dirtiest, most corrupt politician who will do anything for victory and power, including destroy people's lives just by throwing money around. The fake dossier, the Russian collusion investigation, all of these fake accusers against Trump and all these other Republicans, it all starts from Hillary Clinton. It's her brainchild. It's her game plan. And she says that she cares about women. What a total unabashed fraud. Oh, and just to rub Snopes' noses in it, that failure of a website. Snopes debunked on claim New York Times didn't collude with Hillary Clinton. That's from Paul Joseph Watson. And then he documents the whole thing. Snopes says, no, there was no collusion. There was no collusion here. We're Snopes. We have the final say. Oops. WikiLeaks published the emails, and there's actually multiple different emails that show that the New York Times was clearly colluding with the Clinton campaign. It's not even a debate. If any news publication, let's say Breitbart, did that with Donald Trump, it'd be collusion, it'd be jail. If RT did it, oh my gosh, there's their Russian collusion. But it actually gets even worse. The very woman who is saying that Trump is colluding with media, the very woman who says it's ridiculous to say that Clinton was colluding with media, is the very woman that was doing it. Julie Pace. Analysis. Trump rigged vote claim may leave lasting damage. So here she is saying that because Trump is claiming someone might be trying to rig the vote, that's going to damage the election. And then she's the one colluding with Hillary Clinton to damage the election and to rig the vote. Julie Pace, another racist. Again, I'm calling liberals racist now. So if you're wondering why I keep saying racist, that's what I'm doing in 2018. Liberals now are racist. And they just did that to themselves. So they just caught colluding, caught rigging the election, Fusion GPS and Obama's DOJ and all of Mueller's team and everybody working together to create this fake Trump dossier. And then Obama and his team uses that to spy on Donald Trump illegally. And it all comes from Hillary Clinton. And now finally, even Lindsey Graham, who always likes to dip his toe in the water before he tells you what he thinks, is finally signaling that, yeah, it looks like we're going to have to admit that this dossier basically was totally fake from the Clinton camp to spy on President Trump. Here's Lindsey Graham.
In Florida, he said, I think Robert Mueller will do a fair job, an honest job. He's confident he'll do a good job on this investigation. From a legal perspective and with your legal background, I know that makes you happy because to criticize Robert Mueller is not a good thing to do necessarily legally. Move. But do you believe that he's pursuing this thing in an honest fashion from what you know, not what you hope, but what you know?
Yeah, I believe he is. I believe he's the right guy to have been chosen. He's
now, pause it right there. This is how you know. I'm telling you, Lindsey Graham, he always sticks his toe in the water before he tells you his opinion, because it's never his opinion. It's what is going to offend the least amount of people. So here's Lindsey Graham signaling out to the Washington deep state, I won't call you out. I won't call you out. I'm still with you guys, but I can't be a total moron. I mean, I have to admit, Trump's kind of good. All right, go back to Lindsey.
Analysis of what happened in a fair-minded way, but he's not looking at the dossier. That's not part of his charter. And I've spent some time in the last couple of days, after a lot of fighting with the Department of Justice, to get the background on the dossier. And here's what I can tell your viewers. I'm very disturbed about what the Department of Justice did with this dossier, and we need a special counsel to look into that.
Now, pause right there. Department of Justice, Bruce Orr, met with Obama, met with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS, Winnie Orr, his wife, contacting with who knows who over ham radio, also working for Fusion GPS, the ones that created the Russian Trump fake dossier. Now you're starting to see all the puzzle pieces come together. Let's go back to Lindsey Graham.
In Mueller's charter, and what I saw and what I've gathered in the last couple of days bothers me a lot, and I'd like somebody outside DOJ to look into how this dossier
Okay, so here's what he's saying. He's saying that the current status of this Russian investigation does not actually investigate the dossier, so it's time for us to have an investigation into that dossier, and I think Trump would get behind that. When's it going to happen, though? Welcome back to the War Room. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer. We've got 2 segments left, and 2017 was a milestone year for us here at InfoWars, and it's all because of your support at InfoWarsStore.com. We hired more crew. We dropped probably more new products this year than any other previous year at InfoWarsStore.com. We are live 10 hours every day. That used to be a special thing we would do once in a while. Now we do it every day, and this is all because of your support at InfoWarsStore.com. So think about that. You continue to support us at InfoWarsStore.com. We will continue to expand. And if you continue to support us to a greater extent, we will continue to expand even more in 2018 than we did in 2017. And I know that that's exactly what Alex plans to do. So he's extended some of these New Year's specials right now. Back in stock, Myco ZX is 25% off. One of the top-rated products at InfoWarsStore.com, Super Male Vitality, is 50% off. Silver Bullet, some people call it Magic Bullet, is 67% off right now at InfoWarsStore.com. That is a must-have in your health pantry during winter when a sore throat or a cough or what have you can sneak up on you. Silver Bullet is just a great solution for that. Brain Force Plus, a top-rated product at InfoWarsStore.com, 50% off. A couple new products, Alpha Power and Cell Force, a couple new products, 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com. The game-changing, life-changing Survival Shield X2, that's 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com. And if you haven't tried our toothpaste yet, I have to wonder what you are waiting for. Everybody buys toothpaste. Why not support the good guys at InfoWarsStore.com? And we make it easy for you to support us, folks, because once you use Super Blue toothpaste from InfoWarsStore.com, it's the last toothpaste you're ever going to use because it's the best toothpaste that you'll ever use. That's what I believe, and that's why I use Super Blue, and that's why we sell Super Blue. So check it all out, InfoWarsStore.com. You supported us in 2017, and you saw the results. David Knight, Real News, every morning before the Alex Jones Show. Alex Jones Show, 4 hours a day, expanded guests, more features, more reports, more crew. And then the War Room closes it out every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Central, right here, myself and Roger Stone, every weekday. So you saw what happened in 2017 with your support. Support us even more in 2018 and watch us go to levels you didn't even think we could reach. Oh, and by the way, at InfoWarsStore.com, free shipping. So we've just gone absolutely crazy at InfoWarsStore.com with these New Year specials. Free shipping at InfoWarsStore.com. All right, I'm going to give out the phone line because in the last segment, I'm going to take your phone calls. 888-201-2244, 888-201-2244. We'll do a News Crunch, News Blitz here, and then take your calls in the final segment. Here's the story of a hero. Soldier home for holidays died saving lives in Bronx Inferno. Now, you heard about the Bronx Inferno, but you probably did not hear about Emmanuel Mensa, a 28-year-old who was home from his duties in the Army. He just finished his basic training in Georgia. He was in town in New York, and when he saw the apartment ablaze, decided to act and try to save lives, and in doing so, lost his own. A true hero, Emmanuel Mensa. And these are the types of men and women that our armed forces are made up of. And they want to insult soldiers for when they die and say they knew what they signed up for. No, that's what makes them so honorable. That's what makes them heroes, is because they knew what they signed up for. They put their life on the line for a greater good. They put their life on the line for you, for your future. So we salute Emmanuel Mensa, a soldier home from the Army who died saving lives in the Bronx Inferno. That is a true hero right there. So right now, it's actually, well, it was red-linked on Drudge. I don't see it red-linked anymore. DEFCON warning issued as test missile expected soon. Of course, that's out of North Korea. The story today was Kim Jong-un orders biggest ever ICBM to be launched on North Korea's 70th anniversary. That was a defector claim. But meanwhile, at the same time, you've got Kim Jong-un looking to, it looks like he's trying to reach out to South Korea ahead of Olympic Games. Okay, that's good. And then in his New Year's address, he wore the Western-style suit in a light gray, which they are saying is a sign that he's trying not to appear as aggressive as he normally would in his communist-style outfit, instead wearing the Western-style outfit. So just interesting messages coming out of North Korea. The biggest test expected, but Kim Jong-un trying to extend an olive branch to South Korea before the Olympics, changes his outfit for the New Year's address. So, you know, obviously everybody is staying closely tuned into what's going on in North Korea. Just one more time, again, this story is at newswars.com. UN chief calls for unity against nationalism. The United States Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in his New Year's proclamation that nations of the world should unite to fight nationalism. Yeah, fight against yourself. That really, really makes sense. You are bad, so let's all join together to fight against ourselves. I mean, if that's not the globalists telling you what they're really all about, I don't know what is. Here's the nonsense, more nonsense from liberals. It's an interesting point, but again shows the double standards. Tax law spat over a Kentucky college prompts charges of favoritism. So some of these exemptions to these universities were cut in this tax cut bill, which I think is good. But the Republicans are saying Berea College should still get the exemption because it's a small liberal arts Christian college, and it's very small. And the unique thing about it is it only accepts low-income students and fully covers their tuition costs while they work to pay for living expenses. So this is something that's right out, you would think, of the Democrat playbook. You know, low-income students, free tuition, take care of them. Of course, I guess that's what it is. Because they make the students work, it needs to be shut down. If the students weren't working and they just got free tuition, I bet the Democrats would be okay with this. But the Democrats want them to have to pay full taxes. They're against the Republicans trying to keep that exempt status from that university that offers tuition to low-income students. How dare the Republicans want to do that? I mean, whew. I found this funny. This is from Salon. Alex Jones hates on The Last Jedi, calls Carrie Fisher an old lizard. Well, I just want to say real quick, I completely agree with my boss, Alex Jones, and I thought the new Star Wars sucked. That's my opinion. But secondly, Carrie Fisher wasn't actually in the film. It was a virtual creation of Princess Leia. So I just wanted to say that. In our midst, ISIS lone wolf fanatic takes chilling selfie on a snow-covered New York street. as terror group urges a wave of knife attacks at U.S. churches. So that's nice. Some guy shows up in New York dressed as ISIS, shares it on social media. And, you know, it's not like, you know, these people over there that claim to be in ISIS hate our way of life and want to attack us or anything. We should just have open borders, probably. Meanwhile, in Iran, I'm sure you've heard of the protests. They're debating now whether Iran is going to call for the law that says if you're protesting against the government, you can basically be killed by police. I forget the name of that law. It was, it's obviously not, you can't pronounce it in English, but the protests continue. Now rumors are that the Iranian Guard is actually maybe standing down after some of the Iranian Guard was posting photos of bullets as they were about to take on the protesters. But the only thing I want to say about this is, why so silent, liberals? Why so silent, racists? Protests go on in America, you're screaming at the top of your lungs, but in Iran, protests go on and you hear nothing from Democrats, nothing from liberals. It's funny how that works. Your call's on the other side. You know, I was thinking in the break about this fake Russian dossier that it's pretty much now just being openly admitted was created so that the Obama DOJ could spy on Trump's campaign team. And when Trump tweets out this morning a signal to his base, yes, I'm aware of Hillary's illegal behavior. Yes, I'm aware of Huma Abedin's illegal behavior, and then calls on the Department of Justice to investigate. I feel it's a little tongue-in-cheek because in the same tweet he calls the deep state out too, recognizing that the Department of Justice, at least under Obama for certain, was the deep state and part of this collusion to try to stop Trump from becoming president. But as I'm sitting here just recalling how we already know the details, Bruce Orr met with Obama, met with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS, and met with Christopher Steele, who apparently made up the whole thing to begin with, paid for by Hillary Clinton. And then Bruce's wife, Nellie Orr, was working for Fusion GPS and communicating with who knows who over ham radio. What? But here's the thing. The Russian Trump P-Gate dossier is going to be their undoing. Because think about this. You've got the Orrs in the crosshairs, and someone's going to have to talk. Trump is not going to let this Russian dossier that made up abhorrent things about him go without some sort of punishment. And I think that his patience in this issue is stalwart. But I truly believe that the Russian dossier is going to be what undoes the Democrats and exposes Hillary Clinton really at the root of all of this. And I mean all of it. See, she had so much invested, not just over her life, but in this specific election via super PACs and big donors and really the whole New World Order planning on using her to kill America and put the final nail in the coffin here. She had all that pressure on her to win when she realized, oh crap, I don't have a message. Oh crap, I don't have the energy to go to Wisconsin and do half as many rallies that President Trump is doing. Oh no, nobody shows up to my events. Even when I recruit Jay-Z and LeBron James, Trump gets thousands and thousands of people to line the streets when he goes, I can't get bupkis. That's when she went into desperation mode, called for the fake dossier to be created, called for the news to report on it, and then in the aftermath, using that, the Russian collusion thing, as we find out, a quote-unquote insurance policy of the FBI's Peter Strzok, who also investigated the Hillary Clinton email scandal and worked with James Comey to change the terminology so that she wouldn't be indicted. So we know the names, we know the game plan, and we know the players. And President Trump does too. And I don't think they're getting away with this one. Let's go out to the phone lines to end this first broadcast of 2018. Let's start with Elena in New York. Go ahead.
Hi, Owen. I'm calling in. I'm reading the Clintons' War on Women, and I'm kind of stressing out again because I'm sharing at my school. I teach in West Harlem Public School, and I feel stressed out. I feel like my job is on the line. I can't communicate about it. There's one other colleague who read about it. I'm trying to encourage people to bring in all their books and all their insights and then have an open circle so we have open comments, open communication. And it's just so stressful because after reading them, I guess on page 260
well, I'll tell you
or something
what.
like that.
I'll tell you what, and I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm not trying to put you in a compromising situation. But if any teacher at a public school would like to try a social experiment, here's all you would have to do. First, take in a novel or a book or something that's anti-Trump, or in fact, you could even go one further and do an anti-Bush thing if you wanted to do it that way instead. But something that attacks the conservative side of things. You know, these books are obviously, there's dozens of them on the Bush crime family, but, you know, I'm sure you could find one on Trump. So you bring that book in first as reading material for your class, and you know that the school ain't going to say bubkiss. Oh, you're teaching the kids about how bad conservatives are? Good for you. Go ahead. But then on the flip side, after they've already accepted that, then you bring in the book on the Clintons. Then you bring in Clinton's War on Women, and you make the class read that and watch the freak out from the, you know, powers that be at the public school. I think that that would be a great social experiment. Shall any public school teacher be willing to try it?
Yes. Thank you, Owen. Fantastic. You've given me something to try to focus on, implement, and plan, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, my. Well, if you do go through with that, Godspeed and keep us updated, Elena. Thank you so much for the call. Let's go to Eric in Florida, disgusted that they're trying to tell you in the Metro publication in the UK it's time to give your kids sex toys. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I remember back in must have been early '90s. The Walt Disney put out a movie, you know, obviously VHS, and on the cover was like a palace, if I remember. But one of the symbols didn't make an arrow at the top, so to speak. It was more rounded, if you get my point.
Are you talking about? Wait. I'm sorry. I think I misheard you on the first part. Are you talking about like Disney subliminal messages, like the phallic imagery on the Little Mermaid cover?
No, this was probably early '90s. It was amongst in there. One of them didn't fit. One of them was rounded at the top and not pointed. And
so you are talking about? I'm sorry. What are you talking about, though?
It's a movie. I mean, I guess it would be the same thing.
Okay,
But
so it was the Disney movie. Yeah. No. Disney, yes, Disney puts little subliminal sexual messages in their art and in their films. Yes, absolutely. They've been doing this since the 90s. 100% correct.
Yeah, but this was just before they started that, and you could go back to everything when all the feminist movement started coming along, tall buildings, because you have to build them up. That was a phallic symbol, and you have the...
well, look, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Disney, let me just say, maybe Disney accidentally, had the top of a castle, look like a male member. Maybe Disney's not doing this intentionally. Maybe somehow, the dust in the sky in the Lion King saying sex, maybe this is just, an accident.
It's possible. But
yeah,
anyway,
I'm being halfway facetious here. All right. Well, Eric, thank you for your call. And again, they have been doing this for a long time. All right, let's go to Dennis calling in from Chicago. Dennis, you're going to close us out today. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going on? I'm looking at the total destruction and death of the Democratic Party. We have to start looking at what's coming behind this.
Now, you mean in an attempt to save themselves or in a final attempt to destroy America?
No, I'm saying that this is going to, the Democratic Party is going to fully cave in, and they're going to try to rebuild themselves and reconstruct themselves under something new. And I'm working hard to try to find out who and how this is going to transpire.
Well, I think I can give you a little clarity on that. Think about it like this. Think about it like this. Let me ask you this. I know that this you're not a Hillary supporter, but let's say you were a Hillary supporter, because they couldn't answer this question either. What was Hillary Clinton's message?
Overall,
exactly. She didn't have a message. No. That's the point.
Didn't have one.
She had no message. That's what the people don't understand. Trump had a message. Build a wall. Make America great again. America first. I mean, that's a message. Hillary didn't have a message. They were so arrogant. They thought that they could rig this thing. They were so confident in their ability to steal elections that they didn't even bother giving her a message. That's how much they thought they had America under thumb, and it didn't work. So when you consider that, they didn't even give Hillary Clinton a message to run on in the last election, you're giving them too much credit. Even though I agree with you, they will try to pull something for a last-ditch effort to save their party. We already know what it is, Dennis. Impeach Trump. That's it. That's their only message. They can't have any other message because it's not going to work. Dennis, thank you so much for the call. We sign off for today. 2017 was a huge year for us at InfoWars. Thanks to your support at InfoWarsStore.com. Please support us more and help us grow in 2018. And as always, stay classy, Info Warriors.